Hello everyone, you are on the Evelyn's Kitchen channel, and today we will prepare the most lush and tender meringue roll, thanks to all the secrets from the pastry chef, which I share in the cooking process, and a proven clear recipe. This roll turns out the first time. This is the easiest and fastest recipe without unnecessary movements. The airy, simply cloudy structure of this dessert wins hearts from the first bite. I'm starting. And don't forget to save the most working recipe for meringue roll. We separate the whites from the yolks. Make sure is in a separate capacity, nor to the egg yolk droplet has not got into proteins. Even because of one drop of the yolk, the meringue may not be whipped. Proteins should be at room temperature, so they will be best whipped. We will need 6 proteins by weight, which is 190-200 grams. And firm the yolks, you can bake an excellent cake. The bowl in which we will beat the whites should be completely dry. Beat can be as a planetary mixer and manual. The main thing is that the hand mixer has good power. If the power is too weak, then in the process, I will tell you how much you will need to beat with a weak mixer. Pour in all the proteins and whisk at an average, above average speed, until there is a complete foam without the liquid part. I'm whipping at the 4th to 5th speed out of my 7 speeds. In terms of time, it takes 1 to 2 minutes. Please note that we whisk only 1 protein and no more additives. As you can see, there is no liquid part anymore, only foam, and you can already add powdered sugar. Then add powdered sugar, 250-300 grams. Pour everything in and turn it on at the strongest speed that you have. Whisk at high speeds for 7 to 8 minutes. It is not necessary to add parts, because after adding all the powder, the simultaneous dissolution of the powder immediately begins, together with powdered sugar. You can add vanilla sugar. Vanilla sugar in the form of powder will be ideal. I do not recommend adding sugar instead of powdered sugar, especially if you are new to making meringue rolls. But if you still use sugar, then knead for 10 minutes. And then touch the mixture with your hands so that there are no sugar pieces there. It should all dissolve. If it has not dissolved in 10 minutes, then knead it plus 5 minutes. Eat the meringue to a very stable fluffy mass. It is already clear that after passing the Corolla, there remains such a motionless, beautiful pattern in the form of a flower. But in order to be sure that the meringue is finally ready, we check it as a Swiss meringue, turn the bowl over, and make sure that the mixture does not move, does not flow, does not crawl. In other words, it must be completely stable. Here is such a meringue should turn out. A good test of whether you have beaten the mixture well is to take and turn the bowl over. So we turn it over. So, is it visible? You see, even this piptic does not fall. That's it. It's all whipped up perfectly. At the end, add 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, and we will no longer knead with a mixer, because we will destroy the structure of the entire meringue. So here are 2 tablespoons and a pinch of citric acid. And then, we knead with a spatula in a circular motion and in the center, in a circular motion and in the center. That's it. We need to mix the starch well, so that it is distributed throughout the meringue. Here, many make a mistake. When starch is mixed with a mixer, properly added starch stabilizes the lush meringue layer and will not let it fall off. Look. You can already see that it's smooth consistency, so starch is well mixed. It can be distributed on a baking sheet. It's also good to stick it so that the parchment sticks and does not fidget when we distribute it. That's how to do it. That's it. You can pour it out. We transfer the meringue to the parchment. It should be siliconized. Then the cake will not stick. In order to distribute as perfectly and evenly as possible, You can use the pastry bag and plant a straight, even cake. I don't like to bother so much. I don't even have a spatula to distribute. I will definitely buy it somehow. So for now I distribute it with a spatula, and so everything turns out well. The cake is evenly distributed, but here I forgot to sprinkle with nuts. By the way, you can use any nuts. Walnuts, cashews, almond petals, any that you have. Bake in a preheated oven to 150 degrees 27 for a maximum of 30 minutes without convection. Knowing my oven, that it always gives out more degrees than necessary, I set 140 degrees, and after 10 minutes, I lowered it by 130. In total, my cake was baked for 28 minutes. During baking, the meringue roll should slightly approach, increase, but not swell with large bumps. When it swells, reduce the temperature by 10 degrees. This is an indication that there are high temperature for him. The finished roll should have a crispy crust on top, but not fried brown, but slightly golden. My roll came out slightly behind the parchment and stuck a little to the baking sheet. You can walk like me with a shovel in these places. Turn the finished roll onto the second sheet of parchment and remove the parchment immediately from the hot cake. This is how it turns out to be fluffy with a crispy crust. He needs to cool down completely, and then you can already apply cream and confit. Next, we will need 180 grams of frozen raspberries. You can fresh, pour it into a saucepan. It needs to be defrosted and whipped with a blender until smooth. If you don't like the buboshki, you can grind it through a sieve, but I'll leave it like that. Add 2 teaspoons of cornstarch and 1 teaspoon with a hill of sugar. We don't add a lot of sugar, because if there is a sweet roll, a sweet cream, then it will be too cloying and will leave a light acidity. That's it. Mix well to break up the starch lumps. It is best to dilute this juice from this raspberry, there with starch in it, and then pour it in. Then there won't be a single lump. Well, as you can see, they also mixed it well with a whisk, and everything is homogeneous. Put on medium heat and cook until thickened. As soon as the puree boils, it immediately begins to thicken. Remove from the heat and cool. When it cools down, it will become even thicker. Pour 150 milliliters of cold cream into a bowl. I have a double portion here for another roll. 1 bag of vanilla sugar and 2 tablespoons of powdered sugar. You can also grate lemon zest. The zest perfectly complements the creamy cream, and whisk until soft peaks, starting with small turns, gradually increasing. You can immediately mix cream with cottage cheese and beat until thickened, but I always whisk the cream first to soft peaks, thereby checking the quality of the cream, and then I add cottage cheese. We transfer the cooled confiture to a pastry bag, so it will be more convenient to fill the roll. Instead of this cream, you can mix cottage cheese with powdered sugar, or any non-moist cream. You can have custard or lemon curd. Soft peaks have already appeared. Here is such a state, and you can add cottage cheese. And in 3 stages, we introduce cottage cheese 250 grams. Since I have 2 norms, I will add half a kilogram of cheese. Cheese can be mixed simply with a spatula in a circular motion. As soon as the mass has become thick and homogeneous, turn it off, because you can easily rebeat the cream, and together with the cheese, or stratify. That's up to this state. Now the blades show. Here is such a thick cream turns out. And already lubricate the cooled cake with cream. We leave literally 1 tablespoon for decoration, and then we apply what you have. Maybe some topping or confit, I have raspberry. You can even just fresh fruit, kiwi, banana. Fruits are perfectly combined in a roll, as it is sweet, and fruits will give a little sourness. And roll up the roll. Everything is very simple here. Fold not too tightly, with the help of parchment. This is very easy to do. Here is such a roll turns out. In order for it to soak, it can be sent to the refrigerator for about an hour and then served to the table. We cut off the side ends of these ugly ones. Wow, it's beautiful. We transfer the roll to a plate and decorate it according to your taste with the remaining cream. You can use fresh strawberries, fresh raspberries, but I only have frozen. Then you can decorate with mint that you have. I'll decorate it with almonds. The meringue roll is ready. It is virtually impossible to convey in words how delicious it is, and his main problem is that you eat and you can't stop. Each piece just melts in your mouth. This is a real cloud dessert with an unearthly taste. Just look at this airy and soft texture. I used to cook such a roll according to another recipe, but there are no misfires with this recipe. If you follow all the steps of cooking, the result is always 100%, even for the first time. After baking Easter cakes, I always have a lot of proteins, and this is the best use for them. And instead of such a cream, I often use just children's cottage cheese plus berries and fruits. It turns out to be a more economical and simple option.